right, we want to welcome every single location around the world. It's so great to be joining you as we celebrate Easter. We are not just celebrating Easter over the course of the weekend, but we decided to take 3 weeks out of our year to spend time talking about this history-shaping, history-changing moment. Listen, it doesn't matter if you don't believe that Jesus is who a Christian believes he was. There is no question of a doubt he's the most influential person in all of human history. No one's teaching or ethics or, lifestyle has had a further impact or further reach. Jesus has shaped everything that we think about: charity, healthcare, racial equality, women's rights. His teaching has impacted your life, whether you know it or not. In fact, some of the rights that you have come actually out of the back of his teaching. Some of the blessing that you live in, even though you may not acknowledge him, it actually comes out of what he taught 2,000 years ago. And so we're going to come around something really powerful that he taught. And if you're here today and maybe you don't know what you believe, you'd say you were a skeptic. Perhaps you'd go as far as to say that you were an atheist. This God thing, it's just not for you. Or maybe you grew up in church, but the last 3 years you've been doing your own thing. These 3 weeks are for you. And our heart and our desire and our hope and our fire within me right now is that hopefully we can illuminate something of the Christian faith that may just change everything. But first, let me ask you an honest question. What frustrates you? Because, lots of people think that Christians have got it all together and church is for all the kind of perfect people. I tell you what, I'm a Christian because I mess up. I'm in church because I get things wrong all the time. Anybody else? Anybody ever suffer with a short fuse? Yeah, come on. And there's some wives looking at husbands saying, why don't you put your hand up? But there are things that frustrate us, aren't there? And one of the things that really can get me is when I lose stuff. And this is a problem because I'm really good at losing stuff. I have a profound capacity to lose my wallet. Once, I lost my wallet for 6 months. And I didn't bother calling the bank to cancel the cards because I knew it wasn't stolen. And we were moving that summer, so I just resolved myself to the fact that it would come out in the move. And it did. My wife has a phenomenal capacity to lose items of clothing, especially the ones that I buy her for like birthdays and Christmas. Now, I don't know whether she's trying to send me a message, but maybe I'm not getting it yet. Do you ever get that feeling when you've worried you've lost your phone? Our culture's got a new dance. It's like the pocket tap, isn't it? Have you ever had that phantom phone feeling in your pocket? And it's not there. But the thing that really winds me up, really just gets me, is when I lose these bad boys. Anybody else? Because when you lose your keys, it always happens at literally the worst moment of the day. We're a young family, we've got 4 kids, and I don't know about you, but perhaps we're just terrible parents, but school runs are mental. First, you got to wake your kids up, right? I've got one child who's like a light switch, off and then on. 5:30 in the morning, on. It's no sort of like warming up. It's like, Dad! What? I've got another child, she's like a dimmer switch. You got to warm her up. So, you go and get the kids up, you get them dressed, you feed them their cereal, then you get them redressed because they spilt their cereal over everything, and Cheerios get everywhere. And those things, they're so strong. Have you ever let a Cheerio go dry on like a tile floor? You can't shift that thing. We should build houses out of Cheerios, really, shouldn't we? I dread to think what we're putting in our children. And then you're kind of getting out the house, you get in the car, and then somebody says, I need a wee. And then somebody says, I got PE, and they haven't got their kit. And then your wife turns to you and says, where's the keys? Well, you unlocked the car, where's the keys? No, you had the keys. No, I've got to lock up. And then you start arguing, well, you always have my keys, you always leave my keys. You drove home last night. No, I didn't, you drove home last night. Where's the keys? Where's the keys? Anybody else feel like that? Such a little thing. But so frustrating. You see, but the reality is it is funny and we laugh and we have these just kind of like normal moments in life. But actually, when you really start thinking about keys, they have both a literal and metaphorical significance that goes far beyond our everyday life. Now, I don't know what the first key you had, but for me, it was for my money box. Now, nowadays they got like little passcodes. When, if you were a child of the 80s and 90s, you got a tiny key. And when you're 8 or 9, you lose stuff for a hobby. But I remember having it, and I had my pocket money in there, my millions, probably like £2.75. But I don't know if you had one with the removable plastic tray. Yeah? I used to hide my love notes to like the girls that I fancied underneath, so I did not want to lose that key. Because I had a younger brother. That would have been absolutely terrifying. I was more worried about the love letters than the money. He can have the £10 note as long as he doesn't find that. I don't know about you, maybe your first key was your locker at school. Maybe you didn't have your own room, maybe you shared it with siblings, and that 2 foot by 1 foot piece of metal was your world. It was your little kingdom. You plastered the inside with your favorite sports people. You hid your sweets and your Coca-Cola, and of course, nobody ever hid anything worse in their locker, did they? No. But then how frustrating when you lose your locker key and your homework's in there. And you genuinely have done your homework. So you go to the teacher and say, Miss, it's in my locker. She says, yeah. Heard that 30 times this week. Because she knows you lied last time, but this time you're actually telling the truth. But it's locked in your locker. What about the key to the family home? Your dad or your mum or your carer, your guardian comes up to you and they say, all right, son, here's the keys to the kingdom. And you think, Dad, you got a delusion of grandeur. But anyway... But it's that thing, you can come and go as you like. What about the keys to your first car? Now, my first car was not an Audi. If your first car was an Audi, God bless you. Lend it to me. My first car was a beat-up 4KA. But I tell you what, that thing represented adventure, freedom, life. It represented the fact I didn't need to ask my dad to take me and my girlfriend on a date, like for a lift anymore. Because I was quite old when I learned to drive. That's embarrassing. What about the keys to your first family home? You see that deposit come into your bank account and you're like, oh, that's a lot of zeros. And then it's gone. And then you get a bill from the bank every month. But you get that key. Maybe you don't own your own home. Maybe that's a far off dream. Can you just imagine if somebody came up to you with keys and a title deed? The significance of that moment. You see, they're just tiny pieces of metal, and yet they represent something so much more powerful. They represent freedom, don't they? They represent life. They represent adventure. They represent, even responsibility, maturity, and security as well, don't they? When you've got keys, you can make your home safe. You ever been broken into and then they've got to change the locks? Those days where you feel nervous because you're just not safe. Something so powerful about them. You might be thinking, well, what's this got to do with Easter? Well, Easter's so famous and we know so much about what happened on that weekend, but there's still so much deeper truth to find. You see, on the Friday, we know it well, don't we? Jesus dying on the cross. And if you weren't in church last week, can I encourage you to go to our website and watch the message, because we talked about one of the most profound truths ever. See, the reality that you and I, we make mistakes, don't we? We think things we shouldn't think. We do things we shouldn't do. We get jealous. We get judgmental. We get prideful. And the reality is there's this consciousness within us that knows that's not okay. And the Bible teaches us that our choices in life not only create consequences in the years of our life, but they also, as it was famously said in Gladiator, echo in eternity. The Bible teaches that that echo creates a void between us and God, that you can't be good enough to jump, can't build a bridge with enough charity. But instead, on Easter Sunday, as Jesus stretched out his arm, he covered your past. And as he stretched out the other, he covered even the things you haven't even done yet and paid your and my debt. We said that heaven is not a place for good people. After all, what is good? What's good enough? I don't know about you, but often when I think about the good things, it's often just in comparison to somebody I think who is worse. Heaven is just for those of us who bring our debt letter and say, Jesus, would you stamp it for me? And we know loads about the Sunday, don't we? The empty tomb! The empty tomb! This miraculous moment where somebody who might have seemed crazy backed it up and did what they said they'd do. You know, even if you discount the faith side of it and you just look at the story of Jesus through the lens of a historian, it's really hard to deny that it actually didn't happen. There's so much evidence, there's so much causality around it to say, no, it must have really actually happened. And so if somebody did what they said they were going to do, then we probably got to listen to what they say with a greater intent. And this is something Jesus said. He said, I am the living one. I was dead, and now look, I am alive forever and ever. But here's the point. And I hold the keys of death and hell. See, you got to realize that when Jesus was walking out of the tomb, it wasn't a silent affair. This moment where the keys of your and my life rattled around his waist. You see, on the Saturday of Easter, something powerful was happening. He wasn't just dead in the tomb. In fact, the Bible describes that supernaturally Jesus actually descended. Jesus actually went to hell. Not for punishment, but for authority. It says that he walks up to the character called death, the character called hell, and say, they're mine! Ripping back the keys of life. Walking out of that empty tomb. The sound of freedom. The sound of hope. You see, there are real keys and supernatural ones too. We've all said it at one point, haven't we? I'm just going through hell right now. Maybe that unbelievably painful divorce. That addiction that just won't let you go. The pain of bankruptcy. The weight of failure. As a father, as a mother, just bearing down on you. And you paper over it. Another drink. Another break. When Jesus says, I can unlock the prison. Because he has the keys, our fear can turn to boneless. Our pain can turn to freedom. Our shame can turn to confidence. You see, because he's got the keys, you get let out and let in. It's like he comes up to us in our metaphorical, our emotional prisons, puts the key in the door and says, come with me. You don't need to be defined by that anymore. You don't need to carry the weight of that anymore. Come with me. And not only do you not need to be held up, I'm going to let you in. I'm going to open up life and life in all its fullness. You see, that's why we in Freedom are passionate. Because why wouldn't you be? I don't know about you, but I think if we're all honest with ourselves just for one moment, we have our prisons, do we not? The moments we get tied up, caught up, walking in circles. But Jesus has the keys. He wants to unlock the door and also let you in. You see, heaven is not a place for good people, but for those who say, Jesus, you need to unlock it. I need your forgiveness. I need to change. I need to turn around. One of the most powerful words in the Bible is repent. It doesn't mean lay a weight on your back of regret and remorse. In fact, it means turn. And when you give your life to Jesus, it doesn't change overnight. But step by step, change by change, as you allow Him to renovate your thinking, as you allow Him to transform your mindset, as you start living by His standards, He takes you out of where you were captive and instead now makes you captivated by something else. Today is an opportunity for you to come to Him. To come and ask Him to do what only He can do. To wipe the slate. To unlock the prison doors. 19 years ago, I wasn't looking for Him. I had it all together. I would have lived a worldly, successful life. I would have been successful in a career. I would have had a relatively happy home. And yet when He unlocked my prison door, it's like black and white went to color. It's like stale air turned into fresh mountain top breaths. And every year for 19 years since, I've been discovering more of it. Moment in, moment out. Today is your day. There is a wall you must let down. The pride of life. The deep fire within us that wants to make it okay on our own. But instead, to surrender and walk out and walk in.